Want to really see something that said, take a look at what happened.
Hey.
Why this beat so crazy?
We will make America proud again. And you try to kill our we will make America wealthy again. And yes, together, we will make America great again.
Oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. A lot of y'all have been telling me to check out this one right here. And we're sitting with the CNN smug hack activist. But they say surprisingly, she acted like an actual journalist in this one. Surprisingly. I said, this can't be true. Y'all lying to me. But I'm here for you guys. It's fun to get real. But I hope everybody is blessed, well, healthy, and that nothing but the best is going on in all you beautiful people's life. One love to the human race. If you're new here, join the family. We are rooting for the Trump administration. Prayers for Trump and the Trump administration. We send our prayers, man. We are rooting for America. Exactly what we voted for. And he's doing exactly what he campaigned on. But hey, let's jump in. Make sure you hit that like button. Let's check it out.
A lot of these are our closest allies, South Korea, Japan. When you look at those countries and the tariffs that they're being charged, if they're calling, what would you say to those nations who may have concerns about how to lower these numbers?
Well, I would say they've been doing it to us for a long time. Right? And if they don't like tariffs, then why do they have them?
And should we view these as permanent?
That I think we're going to wait and see how this plays out.
And if countries retaliate, which some have said that they would, some have said they wanted to wait and see, what is the White House's response going to be to those countries?
Well, Caitlin, one of the messages that I'd like to get out tonight is everybody sit back, take a deep breath. Don't immediately retaliate. Let's see where this goes, because if you retaliate, that's how we get escalation.
And then it becomes a full-fledged trade war, in your view?
Not a trade war, depends on the country. But remember that the history of trade is we are the deficit country. The deficit country has an advantage. They are the surplus countries. The surplus countries traditionally always lose any kind of a trade escalation. So I did, as a student of economic history or a professor of economic history, I advise against it.
So you're essentially saying that they should not retaliate?
I would say that doing anything rash would be unwise.
And on the 10% of all imports across the board, that's that baseline on all countries. You've said before that tariffs should be used strategically. What is the strategy in that? What is the ultimate end game for that?
No, I said that that's one use of the tariffs. Go back all the way to Alexander Hamilton. Alexander Hamilton used them to raise revenue. He used them to protect industry. And President Trump has added the third leg of the stool, which is strategic. So, if we are thinking about a 10% global tariff, and let's assume that we import about $3 trillion a year. So that's 300 billion. And that's a substantial revenue raiser that could then be used for working Americans on no tax on tips, no tax on Social Security, no tax on overtime. And for those buying autos, they can reduce their bills because interest on American-made cars will be tax deductible. So this is really a working class, the tariff and tax plan. And
if the point of this ultimately is to get people to buy more U.S.-made products, but you are counting on that revenue, as we've seen some of your colleagues like Peter Navarro arguing how much money this could bring into the United States. In the end, wouldn't that theoretically dwindle over time if people are buying more U.S. and there's less money coming in from what's being imported into the United States?
Yeah, that's a great question. And that's why in the past I've called tariff policy done properly is a shrinking ice cube, because what will happen, we will start out with high tariff income, but then as the factories come to the U.S., we will have more business income and we'll have more paycheck income because American workers will be earning. So, you would see It's a rebalancing. So we rebalance away from tariffs to more domestic income.
But the idea that it would put a dent in the national debt then would seem not to be likely, right?
Well, not at all, because for right now, we have the income that we have, and we will be adding tariff income to that. So when we get CBO scoring, the CBO scoring is not going to include any tariff income. It's not going to include any. So this is all going to be extra. So we're at this that the other T other than tariffs is tax, and from here. I'll be spending most of my time on the tax deal, and we're in this strange betwixt and between on the tax deal because there will be substantial tariff income, there will be substantial cost savings, and we're not going to get credit for either of those with CBO scoring.
Well, and obviously that's why you've been having a lot of conversations with Republican lawmakers. But before I get to that in a moment, we're seeing international markets start to respond to the president's announcements. Obviously, the markets in the United States are already closed. What do you expect the stock market to look like when it opens tomorrow in reaction to this?
I don't know. I don't know where it's going to trade open tomorrow. I don't know where it's going to close tomorrow.
And we know what it's like now. Yeah, this is a tiny flashback, but don't worry. People are so focused on right now. Same narrative like what she just said. What's going to be the reaction? But don't worry. In due time.
And I think what's going to be important are the underlying economic fundamentals, because at the end of the day, Warren Buffett says in the short run, the market's a voting machine. In the long run, it's a weighing machine.
Well, and we've heard some of the allies of this White House say there will be some short-term pain for Americans. I think regular people watching may say, how do you define short term? What does that look like for me and for my bottom line? What would you say to them?
Well, again, I think there are two things there to unpack, Caitlin. One is on what we were doing on government spending. So we were bringing down government jobs, we're bringing down government borrowing. So this unsustainable level of government stimulus is stopping. And then on the other side, private sector jobs and private sector borrowing will take over. Those may not be perfectly matched, but we did see an increase of 10,000 manufacturing jobs last month. On the other side, when you think about especially for working Americans, could we get a price adjustment due to the tariff? Maybe, maybe not. Walmart CEO seems intent on making China or his suppliers in China eat all the tariffs. So Walmart, biggest retailer in America, 40 million people a week go in there. So, and then on the other side, once the tax bill gets through, then we will see the decrease for working Americans. So that's why part of what I've been doing up on the Hill is pushing the House, pushing the Senate, and they don't need much pushing because I think the most undertold story in Washington these days is the level of Republican unity.
Yeah, well, on that front, and we'll see what Republicans do and how that looks. Obviously, that's the president's ambitious agenda. But on, the argument of short-term pain, long-term gain, which it seems what you're arguing about the long-term, what this will look like, prices will go up for Americans in the short term, right?
They could. They don't have to.
And that's if they don't have to, you're arguing if businesses do not pass those on to those consumers.
Well, in the President Trump's first administration, prices didn't go up, so the businesses don't have to pass them on, or the producers in the other countries can eat the tariffs, and traditionally the dollar adjusts. So it's a very complicated calculus to see where we end up.
Yeah, and of course, these are much broader than the ones in the first term. The president was making the argument in the Rose Garden about what economists predicted then and what this looks like now. But on what you mentioned on what the president promised on the campaign trail, whether it comes to no taxes on tips or Social Security, do you envision this in a large way helping pay for that? Because sometimes that's a criticism from critics of this White House saying that he's just using these tariffs to pay for the extension of those tax cuts?
Well, for the extension of the tax cuts or the new no tax on tips, no tax on Social Security, no tax on overtime, and auto deductibility. And look, what's wrong with that? That if we take the 10% ring around the globe tariff, that if there's a currency appreciation, if the producers eat a portion of it, and then there's a slight price adjustment, on the other side, you have all four of those things happening for working Americans. At the end of the day, we could imagine that their real after-tax purchasing power has substantially increased.
And we'll see what that looks like. But on just this overall, you're coming into this, some people say, most Americans, I feel pretty good about where the economy was when President Trump took office. We saw the stock market rally. Do you have any concerns that this announcement will put that in jeopardy for Americans?
Well, first of all, Caitlin, I would back up because out on the campaign trail, and for the previous year, I called it the steroid economy. It looks great on the outside, you're kind of big, muscular in this, but on the inside, it's killing your internal organs. And what was happening was we were heading for a financial crisis. We were at 6.7% deficit to GDP, which we've never had when we weren't at war, weren't in a recession, and no matter what, we were going to have to put the brakes on that. So that as we bring that down, I'm feeling pretty good about averting the crisis and getting to the other side of this.
Secretary Bessent, thank you so much for your time.
Good to see you.
Wow, what an interview. I didn't see any bias there. Hey, this might be the first time we've seen Caitlin Collins behave like an actual journalist. But let me know what y'all think of this. I love y'all. God bless you all and your families, and I'll catch y'all in the next one. Peace and love, you guys.